Hello, and we are live. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And today, I know I say this at every show, but we have a really special guest. And for me, this is not just a special guest. He is a personal friend. He is somebody I look up to, and he is also my mentor. And all of this is happening because he put the foot on me, said, Christian, you got to do something. Let's talk about that. Hello again. My name is Christian. I'm the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur host. And today I have a really special guest, Chef Walchef. And Shawn Walchef said to me many, many months ago, said, Christian, you know what you need to do? You need to do a show. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do a show for? I have nothing to talk about. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I don't have, that amazing background you have. And he says, Christian, if you want to reach people, you knew this. And we had this conversation at 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. It bothered me all weekend because he said, Christian, I challenge you to do it. And I was like, I'm always up for a challenge. Monday morning, we pushed out 11 a.m. We pushed out our first episode. So with that, to my mentor, friend, and business guy here, Shawn Walchef, thanks for being here on the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And by the way, before we start, if you guys haven't done so, check out Kali Barbecue. It's not just only an amazing place, and he has now a new location, but he is a media company. So let's have a conversation around that. First, Chef Walchef, I want to say thanks for being here, and thanks for getting me to do this. And we coming up, very short to the 100 episode. And if you lucky, this might be the 100 episode. So, Chef, thanks a lot for making us do this. Thanks a lot for your guidance and your support. And not just that, you seen in us what we didn't see in ourselves. And that's became one of my life stories. We all need somebody to do that. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to do this. And thanks for being here for show number 2.
So I'm going to start with a story about podcasters. So there are over 2 million podcasts on Apple Podcasts. 25% of the people that publish one podcast episode, they stop after one podcast episode. 60% of the 2 million will stop before they get to 10 episodes. You, my friend, are part of the 1%. You're actually part of the 0.0001%. I have been doing this for the last 7 years. We turned our restaurant business into a media business. We work with the greatest restaurant hospitality technology companies on earth, the biggest restaurant groups. We produce shows for them. We have 7 shows that we produce on a weekly basis. And I talk all the time about storytelling. You, my friend, actually did the work. Not only did you do the work, but you've excelled at it. You've done all of the extra work. It's funny because I was on a show. I'm not going to mention the show, but a very close friend of mine, he has a very popular restaurant podcast, and we were having a disagreement over social media. He was telling me that he doesn't believe in social media. And I said, I'm sorry to tell you, but the only reason that you're sitting in my restaurant in Spring Valley, California, is because of what you call social media. And when I say social media, people have an idea of what is social media. They think Facebook, they think Instagram, they think TikTok, they think YouTube. We all have these subjective feelings. All it is what you do in real life, just online. That's it. Like, remove everything else. All we're talking about is audio, video, words, and images. And you, my friend, have understood that social media is so much bigger. It's real life. It's how do you connect to humans all over the globe. You and I don't even know if we've met in real life, but I know you say I'm your mentor. I believe you're my mentor as well. I've learned from you every time that you and I have shared a stage together, virtual stage together. Every time that we've had a podcast together, you've been on my show, Restaurant Influencers. And the most important thing, and I'm going to slow down for anybody that's listening, if you are listening to this show, if you are watching this show, you matter. But the only way that you matter is if you get involved. My grandfather taught me, stay curious, get involved, ask for help. Curiosity is why you're listening. Why you hear these words right now is because you're a curious person. Other curious people that aren't curious, they won't listen to a podcast. They
Hmm.
won't find content that are trying to make themselves better. But you are curious. But now you have to get involved.
Yeah.
Now you have to reach out to Christian. You have to reach out to me. You have to surround yourself with people that are doing the things that you want to do for your business. And then finally, you have to ask for help. I can't do it by myself. I have an entire team. Cali Barbecue Media is built around so many incredible people, and I include Christian as part of my team because we are all creators together and we're trying to make ourselves better. We're trying to make this industry that we love, this hospitality industry. And I'll have a secret for you. Every single human on earth is in hospitality.
Hmm.
Just don't know that they're in the hospitality business.
I absolutely love that. And that reminds me so much of that conversation we had now 6 months ago, a little bit over 6 months ago, where you said, Christian, I challenge you, you should do a podcast. And to the listeners here, I want to tell you. So for me, first of all, I was scared because I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I didn't want to come across like I start something and don't finish it. Because for me, if people which know me, if I go in, I go all in, and maybe sometimes for too long. And so I was sitting home. I was like, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to get this done? And then I came back here on Saturday. We set this thing up. I said, it doesn't look as good as his, but good. I need to sound good. I need a better way sound. So we redid my setup here. And we said, oh, okay, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And then I had my very first guest on, which was a friend of mine. And I said, hey, I suck at this. And he says, listen, we suck together because this is my very first podcast. The sound didn't work. His computer broke halfway through it. He says, and then the sound didn't work. So he was on the phone, but the video, it didn't matter. And for us, it was so much fun. I was like, this was really bad. And then for me, if people know something about me, I said, how can we make it better tomorrow? I need to get better with my sound. I need to do this. So we do episode number 2. And I have a Rodecaster Pro. We kind of put the sound into it. We had this whole thing. I was like, this is amazing. It went so much better. Let's listen to it back. I was like, oh shit, I didn't turn it on. Sorry, I had it on, but I had it on the wrong channel. And I says, it's live. Who cares? It is what it is. And we learned on every single conversation we had. And halfway through it, we pushed it out there, and you and I spoke on one of the platforms. And you said, Christian, you got to be on TikTok. And I was like, oh, now he wants us to do TikTok. I was like, okay, nobody going home. We have a TikTok channel before we go home. We had a TikTok channel,
I love
and
it.
some of our podcasts have 5,000-6,000 views, and so we pushing that out on TikTok. And so for me, we learned how to do TikTok, and my team is amazing, man. And then it kind of snowballed. And last Friday, we had the first conversation, and I don't think our stuff is great. I want to provide value. I'm more interested in the content than the setup and everything else we do.
Yeah.
And last Friday, I had a podcast with somebody who said, Christian, yours is the most real. I like the way you guys kind of put it together. It's kind of quirky. It's kind of, I think I want you to represent me and do all my podcasts for me. I was like, I don't even know how to do this. I was like, but we said yes because we in this together. I learned from somebody like that guy who said, Christian, let's do it because a rising tide lifts all ships. Because if we can help him to be better in what he does, it's in it for the first time. So it's the first time somebody came to us, Christian, we want you to do this for us. And then the other caveat sense behind it, and I have never shared this with you, Shawn. Since we started this 6 months ago, in the last 6 months, we added 1,000, organic followers on Instagram on a monthly basis. So we started out with 2,200, I think, back in December. We have we shy of 8,500. I know before the end of the year, we're going to have 15, 20,000 people on Instagram. And that's because of you putting out a challenge, me accepting the challenge and said, you know what? It's not going to be perfect, but we're doing it. But you and I have this conversation, and you always say, Christian, you're one of them who does it. What stops people from doing this? Because I made my 100 list. I said, I want to have these people on it. And we had some big names on it. And they always said, you're nobody. When you have 100,000 listeners, then we talk to you. But there was somebody, and he's going to come later on this year, who said, I love your background. He says, you sound just like me. We should do something together. and so he's going to come in
Can't
October.
wait.
So I'm really excited about that, and it's all because you and I had this conversation,
Yeah.
and you put out a challenge to me. Said, Christian, you should do this. It's the best thing you will have done for your business. So Shawn, I know we talk about this all the time, but I can't thank you enough. And thanks for pushing us and having the vision for us to do this the way we're doing it today.
So for the people that are listening and they're wondering, how do you start and where do you start? Because it seems very daunting when you talk about TikTok and Instagram and Spotify and YouTube and all of the different places that you're expected to show up. Uh, One of the most important things that you understand is that you have everything that you need. You start where you are, you start with
Yeah.
what you have, and you do what you can. And every single person is listening to this has the privilege of having a smartphone and having internet access. You have everything you need. We have been given this incredible technology that if you have the courage to look stupid, to sound stupid, to not worry about the background, to not worry about the microphone, to not worry about the lighting, all of those things you figure out after you get past one episode, after you get past 10 episodes, after you get past 100, after you get past 1,000 episodes. We did this for 5 years. Cali Barbecue Media, 5 years investing restaurant money, my money, into this crazy idea that we could build a community of digital hospitality leaders before we got our first brand deal.
Mm-hmm.
Before the first company said, we believe in how you're a good enough storyteller, and we believe in the community that you built. We believe that you're going to do what you say you're going to do with Entrepreneur Magazine. Now we are going to invest money in you. And after that first brand deal, we got our second brand deal. And then we sold sponsorship into the first show that we didn't have any sponsorship for before. Then we launched our third show. Then we got clients to produce all of those things came when no one cared. But we had to have the courage to look stupid and to sound stupid. And one of the things that I always talk about is, if you're listening to this, do you have the courage to start a digital flash mob? Christian, do you know how to start a flash mob?
I do not. I do not.
Well, you do, and you don't know it. So I'm going to explain it to the audience.
Okay.
How you start a digital flash mob is you have to have the courage to tell your story and to hear the music that nobody else in the town village hears.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the crazy person standing up, talking about what you believe in, your recipes, your restaurant, your things that you love, your book, your why, all of your core beliefs, and you have to publish it on the internet. And guess what? Nobody's going to care, and you're going to look like the crazy person, and people are going to make fun of you. But if you're okay with that, and the next day you go and you go, I'm Shawn. I have a barbecue business in San Diego. I'm turning my barbecue business into a media business. I want to be the Amazon of barbecue. All of a sudden, you just need one other person that hears the music and goes,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like this crazy guy. I kind of believe that he also struggled to get a local media to tell his story.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared about his restaurant. No newspaper cared. No radio station cared. No TV station cared. I like that because no one cares about my business. If you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. No one's coming. I realized that no one was coming, and I realized that I had everything that I needed once I was willing to be that idiot in the town square. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I started dancing, and I publish videos, and I publish podcasts, and I publish Instagram posts. And next thing you know, you get one other person dancing, two people dancing. A year later, four people dancing. A year later, 16 people dancing. Compounding interest. If you play the long game, if you understand the internet is going nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
you will essentially attract the people that love the things that you talk about. And guess what? Not everyone's going to love them.
Yeah.
But that's not why you're doing it.
And that's okay.
It's completely okay.
And by the way, I love that, but because you were the guy who started to hear the music before I did, and I still don't. Yeah, if I hear the whole song, but I hear the music,
But
and
the more you
I'm.
start dancing, Christian, the more you understand how everything else works.
Mhm.
And you're encouraging. And I say not motivating, because motivating is bullshit.
Yeah,
Motivating
motivation
is
doesn't last.
temporary.
Yep.
You're inspiring, because inspiration, it stays in your head and you can't get it out of your head.
Yeah.
You can't get it out of your head. This effing guy, He told me, he challenged me. I can do it. I know I can do it. I believe in myself. I know my team believes in me, and I know that we can do it.
I love that. And so for me, there's a few things which happen since we started this, and then for me, I think what, I love the statistics you gave earlier, because I almost became a statistic because I pushed my stuff out there. Nobody watched it because
Nobody
and
cared.
then I flip at night. There's Shawn on, and Shawn said, and at the time you were in Europe, I was like, shit, he looks amazing. His family is gorgeous. What am I? Why am I doing this? In my little thing. And I came back to my office, and this is my little slogan. And this something bitch became progress
Yep.
over perfection, because complexity is the enemy of execution. And for me, I made my 100 list. My team came in the morning. I says, this is the people I have personal contact with. Reach out to them. These 6 of them, I have no clue how we figure out how to get a hold of them. We want to have them on the show. And for me, also on this one, it's hard to see, but I scribbled on it 38. And the reason I did 38, on 38, we were like, okay, all the people which wanted to be on were on it. Christian, nobody's getting back, to us to be on the show. We what are we gonna do? And we were sitting here, and I have this right here in front of me, and I was like, how can we provide more value? How can we provide more value? And then I was like, oh, you know what? Last week I was with a friend of mine who had to close one of his 2 restaurants because he made the simplest mistake 90% of the restaurants owners make. Okay. He opened up the restaurant because he's an amazing cook, and he thought he can do it all.
Yep.
He didn't do well in HR. He was not a great finance guy, and he was certainly not a business owner, but he's an amazing chef. He had to close one of these 2 restaurants. And I came back here and says, I want to talk about what it takes to own a restaurant, because I just had this conversation with my friend Peter 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, you know what we're going to do? We have a guest on Mondays. On Thursday is what I learned this week.
Yeah.
And it became almost, and then it was easy storytelling, and then I was like, no, I know what fucking Shawn is talking about, because I lived it all week. I knew, I lost $1 million deal. You know why I lost $1 million deal? Because it was for me, it happened to me, for me, not to me, that I lost this deal, because I realized afterwards I wouldn't have been happy in that deal. But for me at the time, it was hard because I never walked away from a deal like that. And then I realized, you know what? He wanted to shape us into something who we're not. And I talked about it, what it takes, what are some of the things from an entrepreneur. Even I tell it in the story. It's my story. I just did this guy. This guy tried to bull me last week because he thought he had one over on me. And then became the Thursday things. Now, the Thursday thing I'm talking about, all the little things I screwed up during the week, where I fell short, where I think I need to do better at. And I not hide it, I say behind. If you want to be an entrepreneur, because it takes a different person to become from chef to entrepreneur, than to be a chef. Because for me, in the entrepreneurial world, nobody gives a shit that I'm a chef.
Correct.
Results speaks for themselves. So for me, learning this, and then I was like, I'm sure if I struggled with it, other cooks struggled with that. Let's talk about it. And, and then we started, some of the episodes we said, getting 4,000 or 5,000 views. We're like, okay, good. And then we got the little plaque that we hit 20,000 listeners. And we were like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean, how can it provide more value? And then I gave away my free ebooks, my whole series on how to come from a chef to entrepreneur. And now when I think back, you with your family in Europe gave me the additional kick in the ass, because motivation doesn't last. It was great for the first 25, 30 shows. And then it kind of was like hard to put stuff on them. And one of the things for me is I don't want to talk about something I have no clue on. I want to do it because I lived it, I experienced it, and I overcame it. And it was Mackenzie who came in here and said, you know what, Christian, why don't you talk about the thing that upset you this week? I was like, I should really talk about that. Yeah. I kind of left my stuff, but this became the Thursday conversations. But for me is, I respect you, Shawn, and you doing this. I said, he makes it look so easy. And then the next day you were talking about, oh, I've been in this 5 years, and then I was, shit, he's doing it for 5 years. We're doing it for 6 months. Why am I crying here? So let's get back on it. And for me, that became the whole thing, progress over perfection. Because for me, when I read
Yeah.
this, it's not just a saying. I hear you saying it. Because for me, he's naturally good at. He's a good looking guy. And then,
Go listen to the first episode we did. They were fucking terrible.
but for me, I love what you said about motivation because it doesn't last. For me, I said, if I don't do it, not only do I let my team down, which we'd invested a lot into this,
Yep.
I let Shawn down because he gave me free advice. And if anybody listening here, if somebody gives you great advice, if you don't act on it, don't ever talk to that person again, because I think there's no bigger disrespect than somebody honestly sharing with you, if you do this, you will get this outcome.
Yeah.
And if you don't act on it, you don't deserve to be different. And for me, it's always one of my business mentors. He's back from Scotland, from one of his houses. And we talked about on Sundays, is Christian, what progress did you make? And I was like, we need to sit down because we do this and this and this. And he was saying, you know what, Christian, what the most amazing thing about it is? You tell me when you screw up. And he says, you kind of tell me when you have some successes. But what I love about, if there's a problem, the first thing you say, I think I screwed up. I let this person down. I let this person down. And at the end of the day, and that's also goes back in you spending time with Gary Vee, which is I'm a big fan of. The end of the day, it's my responsibility.
Yep.
And for me, I would not sit here because you invested into me. You gave me 3 free calls. I would use it. And then I said, I can't ask him for anything more. We just need to do it. And it became the thing. And you talk about hearing the music. And for me, it's becoming actually easier instead harder to come on these shows. Because I know if people listen, and not just listen, but really listen, actively listen, they get a ton of value of the conversations we're having. Because over my 35 years, I screwed up a whole lot of times. And I talk about that. And if I would do it over, I would do it totally different. And what scares me when I say that is because I think we all are combined averages of our successes, failures, and the people had influence on us. Maybe I wouldn't do this. So for me, if you now ask me, it was exactly the way it's meant to be. I was
Yeah.
supposed to screw up there because I was supposed to learn that. And that's totally okay. And for me, I encourage anybody listening here, go a little deep, spend some time on what Shawn is talking about. Because sometimes for me, you make it sound so simple that people don't think there's value in this. And for me, I think, the way you look at media is so differently. And for me, I want to pivot our conversation a little bit because you're talking about social media.
Yep.
And how can somebody who was in my shoes starting out leverage social media in any of the forms? So we actually let go of some of them. So we now only in 3 platforms, is it,
Yep.
let's go in and be good at
Yep.
and learn how to really story tell. And for me, we still haven't perfected it yet, but I think our story is out there. And now it's getting clearer because we getting clearer of what we want to do for the industry. So talk to our listeners a little bit how you learned how to leverage social media and how you learned that power of storytelling.
So the best story that I can share from a Cali Barbecue Media story is our toast unboxing story.
I love that.
So recently, actually just yesterday, I was on another podcast with a tech founder, and he sent me a message on LinkedIn, asked me to come on his show, and interviewed me for half an hour. At the end of the interview, he let me know that he's been following me for the last 4 years. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I've been following your shows. I've been following your content on LinkedIn and on Instagram. And he's like, and I wanted to share something with you about your toast unboxing video. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, the toast unboxing video is something that I use frequently when I'm talking to other customers because his technology integrates
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Toast. So they have a tight integration. And he goes, yeah, I remember watching that video thinking, I can't believe this restaurant owner is making a video about his point of sale system. And the reason why I talk about this is because when we made the video, We had people that know me, that knew we had a podcast, that knew we had a media company, that still didn't understand, Shawn, why are you spending resources for your media team, for your producer, for your general manager to make a big production to make a toast unboxing video? And why are you telling Toast that you're going to make this unboxing video? Like, because this is the core of
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we believe. Social media is bigger than just selling barbecue at our restaurant. It's bigger than selling brisket to the empty seat and trying to get an extra table turn, trying to get an extra person to come and buy in. What it is story.
yeah,
And if I can share an understanding that I am not alone on the internet, knowing as a restaurant owner, there are other restaurant owners all over the globe that are on a legacy point of sale system, or maybe don't even have a point of sale system, that are thinking about what we call digital hospitality. How
hmm,
can I provide, how can I use technology to provide a better food experience for my guest? Well, if I believe that there's other people on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on
yeah,
Spotify, on Instagram, on Facebook that can find that video, that are searching, why should I switch to Toast? And my Toast unboxing video comes up. Maybe I can add value to that restaurant owner because we had reservations. We weren't sure. We were on Aloha for 12 years. We
yeah,
wanted to switch to Toast, but we made that video. And by making that video, we endeared ourselves to Toast because we were giving them user generated content.
yep,
As a restaurant owner, we were sharing the story about why we were doing, how we were onboarding, how we were going live, why we were using the KDS, how we were using the order and pay. All of those things gave us the opportunity where now I'm on the customer advisory board. Every
hmm,
single quarter, I fly to Toast headquarters in the Seaport District, and I spend 2 days at their headquarters with the founders of Toast, with the top leadership at Toast, with all the product managers at Toast, with the marketing team at Toast, with the sales team at Toast. I went to the Toast IPO. I was part of 20 restaurants. If you saw the list of restaurants that were at the IPO, the initial public offering at the New York Stock Exchange, you'd
yeah,
go, why is Cali Barbecue there? Well, we're there because we were the storytellers. We were there because we were willing to do what everyone else is unwilling to do. We were willing to tell the story about our business story. And back to how hard is it? Forget about everyone else. At this time, I want you to forget about everyone else. Don't think about content for anyone else. Make a video for who were you 5 years ago. Who was Christian 5 years ago? The Christian today that's making all this content, that has his own media company, that puts media into all of his other businesses that he's in. Talk to him. Make that video. I could make a video today to Shawn, say, Shawn, keep going.
yeah.
You believe in it, double down on it. You believe so much in storytelling, go put all of your resources into storytelling.
I absolutely love that. And truth be told, your unboxing story, that's why we in our restaurants use Toast. Okay. We use or we used a company which started in the late 70s, they make laptops and other stuff. Their BOS is not that good. We thought it was good, until we switched to Toast. It was like, oh my God, we in the future, and our system was slow, but we didn't want to change because we thought it's going to ruin everything.
Yep.
And for me, I think that's what somebody needs to do a video about. I was
Correct.
more afraid of me. It wasn't the system, it wasn't the employees, it was me. It was my
Yep.
fault, why we had it 5 years longer than we needed to. It was my fault. And as you did that unboxing video, and I seen Toast all the time. I loved the logo, by the way. I
Mhm.
loved all of that. And I seen how they have evolved. I says, we should give Toast a shot. Never look back. Never look back. And for me, I was the problem. And even now, when I have this conversation, every time you talk about this, how you guys made that unboxing video, you and I talk about this all the time. Because I was like, I fucking walked you unboxing video. I looked at 5 times. Okay, he said this, and then people really resonated with that. So I'm watching your unboxing video. I was like, he's so fucking good at this. He's so good at this, And but we all need that. And for me, also there was something you said, like halfway into it, and which I still also resonates with me. In the beginning, as I started this podcast, I didn't know who I wanted to be. And I think to episode 25, 30, I said, this is actually me,
Yep.
I sometimes say bad words, but that's me,
Right.
and for me, and I said this earlier, what I learned about me in the podcast is more to me than the damn podcast. It's not
Of course.
really.
Yeah.
And for
It's an
me,
investment in you.
correct. There was
It's
days.
your own therapy. You're learning your about yourself, and you're learning how to ask better questions, and you're only bringing people on that you want to learn from. Like
So true.
what an incredible moment. Brian Grazer, do you know who that is?
Yeah,
Who's
yeah.
the Brian Grazer wrote the Curiosity book, Eye Contact. He has
Hmm.
curiosity conversations. That's what these are. That's what podcasts
Yeah.
are. You only bring on people that you want to learn from.
I I couldn't agree with you more. And for me, we ask people back for a second helping because we hospitality, but we and you kind of taught me as a Christian, it's not going to always be easy. There's going to be up and downs. There's days I said here, I was like, I'm tired. You know, I had a crappy last 2 days. Um, I don't I don't want to do it. I do it tomorrow. And then you just get it done. Progress over perfection, and
Yep.
just doing it. So going back, because there's so many people out there, which I was one of them. Watching what you do is you talk a lot about culinary branding.
Yep.
What do you do when you run out of ideas? And you actually said something to me, which we just did 2 days ago. Talk to us a little bit. How do you stay motivated? Where do you find content? And what does culinary branding at large actually mean to you?
So I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if you and I have discussed this, but I started talking about it recently. It's my orange tree theory. Have we talked about
No,
this?
we haven't. No.
So I have this theory about what I call the orange tree theory.
Yep.
And I recently started speaking about it. And for somebody that's been in business for 16 years, that has a media company, that does podcasts, that does keynote presentations, that goes on other shows like this, you would think that I have content ideas for days.
Hmm.
And we are really good at coming up with content. We're really good at finding stories, telling B2B stories, B2C stories within our restaurant. But I'm going to tell you a story about this orange tree. So I believe that every business, every restaurant, but not only every restaurant, every business has an orange tree story. And that story is something that means something so deep to who we are and what we believe,
Hmm.
but we don't think that it's a good enough story to make content around and to share. So there's an orange tree that my grandfather, who's from Bulgaria, a Bulgarian village, he raised me. I never met my father. He planted with my uncle, who is also from Bulgaria. They planted this orange tree at the restaurant that I now own. They planted it in the late 1990s. They also built a beautiful water fountain next to this orange tree. My grandfather loved water features.
Yeah.
He loved flowers. He loved trees. It reminded him of his old country, of his old village. This orange tree was at the front of the restaurant. Now, when I took over the restaurant with my business partner in 2008, the orange tree was still there. And I remember taking a photo with my grandfather at the fountain, sharing a special moment. He passed the same year that we opened up the restaurant, but he did see us take over Cali Barbecue in 2008. Fast forward 2 years after that, we were a sports entertainment destination. We would do big events. The Chargers played the Raiders on Monday night, and we had two fans that got rowdy in the bar. They took the fight from the bar out to the front of the restaurant, started wrestling by the fountain, knocked over the fountain, damaged the fountain. I was so distraught, hurt that this fountain that my grandfather built, that was this beautiful part welcoming to the restaurant, was destroyed. Well, my girlfriend and soon to be wife, we decided to rebuild that fountain. So we
Yeah.
rebuilt the fountain next to the orange tree. Fast forward to the pandemic, we decided to remove the back patio, become the Amazon of barbecue, go into ghost kitchens, stadiums,
Hmm.
airports, add more smokers to our restaurant. Well, as we were going through the construction, we met with our team, Eric, Gene, Howard, Keith, my wife, and we all looked and said, Okay, well, if we're going to build all these smokers, when we bring our delivery vehicles in to drop off the meats and to take the meats that are cooked out to the stadiums, well, we have to remove this orange tree. The orange tree's in the way. We had 5 meetings where we were convinced that we were going to remove this orange tree. The one person, my wife, said, we will not remove that orange tree. That orange tree is going to stay.
Yeah,
That is our family. That is our roots. That orange tree means too much. And guess what? We built the smokers around the orange tree.
I love that.
If you come to our restaurant today, there is an orange tree next to the sign that leads you into the smokers. And that orange tree, it's very unassuming. No one knows the history of the orange tree. No one knows about the orange tree. But I share it on things like this because every single person has something like that in your business, in your family. You have something that means something to
Mhm.
you, your father, your mother, your grandfather, your wife, your sister, your brother. It means something to you, but we don't talk about it. Why
Mhm.
don't we talk about it? We talk about it when it's too late. Those are the things that connect us to people in social media. It's not going to make a viral video, but it's going to connect you to community. It's going to connect you to people that are going to go, Christian, thank you for sharing about Austria.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about your village. I want to learn more about the recipes that your mother made you. I want to learn more
Mhm.
about the scent because that reminds me of the time. I just interviewed some incredible chef from West Africa. This chef is absolutely incredible. He was talking about West African culture and West African cuisine, jollof rice. I don't know anything about jollof rice. He educated me. Apparently, all throughout West Africa, all the different countries, they all believe they have the best jollof rice. Everywhere in the world, we all have these differences in cuisine, differences in recipes, differences in food, but it's in those differences that bring us together. And
Mhm.
if we share the story about those differences, now all of a sudden you have the things that really matter. Those are the things that you should share the story about.
I absolutely love that, and that story. By the way, our listeners, if you just started out, I have here a conversation with Chef Shawn Walchef, who owns Digital Barbecue Media, and for me, this story is so powerful. Actually, I have goosebumps. This story is so powerful because everybody has this in a way. So if you haven't done so, rewind 2 minutes and listen to this over again because as you told the story here, like I said, I have goosebumps. I'm sitting here because I think what made me fall in love with you, how you look at media, is how how you balance authenticity, because this is who you are, with technology. And for me, I was like, this is not a learnable skill. This guy is a natural at it. How do you balance that? Because as you tell the story, for me is I internalize the story because you are so authentic when you do this here on any of the social media platforms. So how did you learn how to do it? And how can somebody else not to fall into those pitfalls where people say, oh, I just need like to be like Gordon Ramsay?
The answer is the truth vibrates the fastest. Your voice, who you are, matters. And once you start acting for the camera, everything falls apart.
Hmm.
But if you start living your life and turning the camera on and forgetting that there's a camera there, that's where all the magic happens. You know, telling your story, writing a book, creating a podcast, making a video, it's all the same thing. You know, we're trying to put our best foot forward, but our best foot is who we are.
Hmm.
Be who you are and just turn the cameras on and learn how to publish it. That's it. You know, that's where all the magic is. When people think about content creation, they go, well, I don't have time for that. Well, you're already living your life. All you need to do is turn this thing on. I made orange. So my son, he's 7 years old. My daughter's 4 years old. My son told me, Dad, I want a basketball hoop. And I said, well, son, you don't have any money for a basketball hoop. We're going to have to save money. He's like, well, I don't know how to save money. Like,
Yeah.
well, you can start a business. He goes, really? Well, how am I going to start a business? He came up with an idea to have an orange juice business. I'm like, fantastic.
Hmm.
So him and I yesterday asked a friend who has oranges. The tree at the restaurant doesn't have enough oranges, but we got all these oranges. We have, 60 different oranges. I was making orange juice with my son, but
That
we
is
just turned the camera on. I literally just
awesome.
put the camera on and told the orange juice story of me and my son squeezing the oranges. That wasn't planned content.
Yeah.
That's just us living our life. And that's why we talk about smartphone storytelling. 'Cause you have everything you need. You have a smartphone.
Yeah.
What an incredible gift. Can you imagine if my grandfather from the Bulgarian village, when he became a medical doctor and immigrated to the United States back in the 1960s, the 1970s, he would write a handwritten letter to his sister in Bulgaria. It would take 7 months for that written letter to get to Bulgaria. 7 months.
It's
My
great.
wife every single day for free is on Viber in HD with her grandmother in the village in Bulgaria. Every single day. My her family gets to watch my kids, their offspring grow up. They get to watch them graduate, they get to watch them score their first soccer goal, watch them make their first basket, watch my daughter learn how to swim. Why? Because we're just good at smartphone storytelling.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with us being famous or being celebrities or being influencers. All I care about is connecting with other humans that are dads, that are just trying to figure it out, that are
Mhm.
husbands, that are grandkids. Tell the story. That's it. You have everything you need.
I love that. And again, you have that ability to make it sound so easy. Because for me, turning on the camera for the first time, I was more scared of it than myself. And I was sitting here. I knew I had to do the first episode Sunday night. I was sitting here, and I said to my wife, "I want to do a 30-second, like announcement on the thing." And I had it scripted. I looked like I was reading because I was reading it,
Yep.
and I was sitting here, I was like, I suck so bad. This 30-second thing took me 5.5 hours.
Yep.
And then I only gave up because it was 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, it's good enough. It's good enough. Progress over perfection. Um, and for me, I kind of go back to what you started this out with. How many people start out and how many people don't make it to a certain level?
25%
That is crazy.
publish one episode and quit.
I don't.
25%. 60% stop after not even getting to 10 episodes. 60%, that leaves you with what? Just do the work, put the reps in.
Mhm. It-
That's where all the magic happens.
and for me, I also, to our listeners, I need to come clean. At first, I asked my team, "Hey, can you write me an outline? I need to say this. I need to say this. I need to say this." And it felt so unnatural doing it.
Yeah.
And it was episode 10. I was like, no more outlines. I don't want to do this anymore. It, lo- I knew everybody knew that I was reading it. And I said, I need to find my way of doing it. And I still don't think I'm there, but I'm getting closer. I know exactly what I want to portray. And if you listen to my last 5 episodes, you know who I am as a person. And that's what I want. I want somebody who has the time to listen to 2 or 3. I call it the 5, knowing I love this guy because this is what he does. This is what he believes in. Because I feel like I always talk about the same things, because I'm not a complicated guy,
No.
For me, this is really simple. Um, but doing this in front of the video, and do you remember my partner, Joe, who started all of this with me?
I do.
Joe said to me, and I just had this conversation with his wife. Joe since passed, and we were sitting there, and Joe said to me, Christian, we need to do video. We need to do video. And I struggled to do video because it was me. I was my biggest critic. And for me, every time I sit here and I don't want to do it, Joe is my why. Because Joe knew this before me, before I did. That kind of comes full circle. And Joe introduced us because Joe was first on Clubhouse, and then that's how we met. And
Yep.
that's how we met Troy, and how this whole thing started. And for me, we look back over the last few weeks, I have 2 new connections I made through this. And people also which know me, I ask myself 3 questions every time I meet somebody. What can I learn from them? What value can I provide to them? And who needs to know about them? And I feel myself promoting more of the people I met because I know they will provide value to anybody. And having the platform allows me to bring some new people in. I interviewed somebody the other day for the first time. I was like, oh my God, I kept making notes. This guy needs support. No, but and then we made 7 introductions after we
Yep.
hung up. And I think when you tell that story, or when you say, hey, just do this, for me, I hear this. I need to share because one of the things I consider myself a connector. I know I have a lot of connections and I want to have people meet another, great people. And we had a conversation 2 months ago, and last Friday, somebody said, "Hey, we want me building this. We want you to be one of us five." And this would not happen if you wouldn't said that, Christian. I implore you, you need to do a podcast. You
Yeah.
will reach people. And even if nobody watches this, just having the thing out there and people falling in love with you, I'm like,
What did I say though? Specifically, I didn't say podcast. What did I say?
a show. You call it a show
Why did I say you need to do a show?
because you want to be the show, not the commercial.
That's right. But
And
I
that's,
also I also say show because I don't want people to fall into the trap of thinking that the
Mhm.
podcast is the answer. The storytelling is the answer. Telling your story on the internet, you're already doing it in real life.
Yeah,
But the show structures it in a way that every single week it holds you accountable to the long form content.
agreed. And that's why I'll disclaimer this is not a podcast. This
That's
is
right.
not a podcast.
There you go.
So I know I'm looking at the clock. We almost added for an hour. So I want to quick wrap it up because there was, the, for me, if I would meet you today for the very first time, I would ask you something really simple. I would say, Chef, what are the three things you would do if you would start over? What would you do from, if there's a tip or trick you would tell me, what would you tell me about culinary personal branding and what would you tell me about storytelling? So if you and I would meet for the very first time, you are my Gary Vee and I call you the Gary Vee of the food industry. So I think you need to coin that because I think you really are. What are what techniques or how would you start over if you would do it all over again, knowing what you know today? How would you tackle storytelling on your phone
Uh,
today?
the number one thing is understanding that your personal brand is the most important thing because the personal brand is who you are and it's how you will live your life forever. And I think one of the hardest things that I learned was understanding that Cali Barbecue is a brand, but
Hmm.
Shawn Walchef is also a brand.
Yeah.
And the more that I leaned into having my own voice, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a grandson, I'm a restaurant owner, I'm a storyteller. I love the Chargers. I love all of these different things. I live in San Diego. I visit Bulgaria and the village every like all of those things. The more that I incorporated storytelling into everything I did, I don't have two lives. I don't have
Hmm.
my business life as a restaurant owner and then
Yeah.
my dad life. And once I got rid of that and started understanding that Shawn Walchef is who I am on Instagram, it's
Hmm.
who I am on LinkedIn, it's who I am on YouTube, it's who I am on TikTok, it's who I am all across the board. I just need to live more and document more.
Hmm.
If I document more, I'm going to connect with the people and they're going to love me or they're going to hate me for the things that I put out there. But the sooner that I learn that, the sooner that I can build community with the people that I really want to do
Yeah.
business with. The people that there are 8 billion people on this earth. There is so much business out there. There is no competition. A rising tide does lift all ships.
Hmm.
And you will recruit other people that believe in your message. How does a story become a legend, Christian?
It's a good question. I think it's by being told over and over again.
That's absolutely correct. The only way a story becomes a legend is if it's so good that you have to tell somebody else.
Hmm.
And the best storytellers on earth, the reason why they think of other storytellers, because you put out content, I think about you all the time.
Hmm.
Because you're on all these different platforms now, and
Yeah.
I think of different ways of that person needs to connect with Christian.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the game that we're in. This is the modern world. You can just pick up Gary Vee's new book, everything that he's been talking about, everything that I've been doing. When I first heard of Gary Vee in 2017, when I first launched my show, I couldn't believe that a business owner at his level was on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine, that he had an agency, that he actually believed in social media. He actually believed in social media. I'm like, how does all of these business owners not believe in social media?
Yeah.
And now look at where we are in 2024, 7 years later. There's still Fortune 50 companies that don't have a YouTube page, that don't have a podcast, that don't post that have some agency that posts bullshit on Instagram. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, again, you make it sound so simple because for you, I think what I seen the Sean I see from 7 years ago to now, and that's why I'm 100%. I call you the Gary Vee of the food service industry because it's so ingrained in you to tell the story the way you do because it comes across so natural. And I think that's the gift from anybody, you kicking me in the ass to do this, because the more I do it, the more I understand where my gifts are and how
Yep.
I can provide value to anybody listening. And for me, there's some days I go pretty deep on some of the stuff which made me who I am today. And some days I feel bad about because I don't want people to feel guilty or listen to me because, of some of the stuff. But for me, it's part of who I am. And as we talked earlier, is we all a combined average of the people which influence us and the circumstances which create who we are. And for me, that's super powerful. And for me, I go back. For me, as I started this, and every 10th episode, I make myself a little thing. What did you learn over the last 10 episodes? And I don't think I ever shared this with you, but for me, I call it the three selves. What I learned about myself. My first self was my self-awareness. I became a lot more self-aware of the little stupid things I do, because I'm on camera.
Yep.
The second thing was I found that I needed to do self-motivation because motivation doesn't exist and motivation doesn't last. So maybe I need to call it something else and call it inspiration. And my inspiration is when somebody says, Christian, this was powerful, what you just said, or hey, I really connected with that. Because for me, I don't do it for me, I do it for the people listening. And for me, the third self is my self-discipline. What I learned for this, that we scheduled this from the beginning. I told you we're gonna do 2 a week, Mondays and Thursdays. Some Mondays I travel and everything else. We will do a show. Some Thursdays we will do a show. And so for me, I call it what I thank you for is my three self, my self-awareness, my self-motivation or my self-inspiration, and my self-discipline because I tweaked this and I made it better because you asked me to do this. And again, this is not a podcast, this is a show. And I can't thank you enough for doing this for me. I think a lot about you when I see some of your stuff and I share your stuff. I honestly believe what you do is the best kept secret in the food service industry because more people need to do that. And I was just recently in India and I played your YouTube videos in India. I don't think if they understood it the way I meant it to, but they telling me, oh, he just put out another video. And, it's just, because for me, it becomes natural. I share all the amazing things, you know,
Yep.
Troy is up to, Jason is up to, Monte is up to, all of the people which I met because I want people to know them. And because if we don't do it for each other, and that's where I think the rising tide comes in, is nobody's coming to rescue us. We need to do it for ourselves. And I just want to say thank you for including me in this and letting me do not just a podcast, but letting me do a show. And I thank you for all of that. So thank you, Chef.
Oh, I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you. And I know this is just the beginning. We'll look back on this episode. That's the beauty of content is we'll look back on this episode and go, holy shit, look what we did in this last 5 years.
Oh, and can you believe how bad we were? We've gotten so
Yeah.
much better since then.
Yep.
And can you believe that he had shadows in the back? What is up with
Yeah.
his lighting?
Yep.
So thank you for that. And to any listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you guys check out Kali Barbecue Media. Check out all the amazing things Shawn is up to. Send him a text, tell him what you love about his content. Share some information because I think what we all need a little bit more is some feedback.
Yep.
And for me, the feedback loop is really important because we want to make this better, and I can't if people don't tell me how we can make it better. So if anybody could, and you find some value in today's conversation, please leave us a note, leave us a comment. We read every single one of them. We take them serious. If there's a bad comment, I let Mackenzie manage it. And if there's a good one, I'm more than happy to answer that. So we all need a Shawn. So if you haven't done so, check him out and get yourself your own Shawn because we need somebody who makes us better in what we do every day. So, Chef, where can people get more content of you and where can they find you?
Easy. I am weirdly available at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. Instagram, you'll find me daily on Instagram, multiple times a day, posting stories. You can always send me messages on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, all the platforms. And you can go to betheshow.media. If you're interested in starting your own show, we have a whole team that helps curate your own show. And we also do content coaching. So
Awesome.
if you're ready for that, to take the leap.
I
Join
love
us
that.
there.
I love what you have done with your new website. If there's any business owners and you think your media needs an upgrade, you guys got to check out Shawn. He is next level. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today, Chef. I really appreciate you being close to 100. This might be the 100 show, but we're going to let everybody. And then when we, there's a little something, and we didn't tell it earlier. This, when we launch this particular show, it will be number 100. So if anybody below writes 100 in the comments, we're going to raffle off a new iPad. So
Sweet.
Please do. And that's going to be thanks to Shawn. And I want you to have the tool you need to tell the story just the way he does. Amazing. So with that, thank you for being here today. To all the listeners, remember to disrupt the kitchen, fire up your career. Stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur host. I'm signing off today. Chef Shawn, thanks for being here today. Thanks for being show number 100. We really appreciate you. And for our listeners, go out there, be the change, be the challenge, set the world on fire. And you know what you need to do? Stay disruptive. Thanks, everybody.